What did you guys get from the interwebs for Christmas? I got women worst and lobster. Yum! HBR Talk with Hannah Wallen. It started with a guy's accurate comment that choosing the wrong woman can ruin a man's life. Unless Twitter was hiding the rest of a conversation from me, that was just a standalone statement he posted, an expression of thought which had been retweeted enough to garner some attention. Then, feminists found it. One retweeted it with the whataboutism, "Well, choosing the wrong man can end a woman's life." That comment was drawn to my attention, so I mimicked her, retweeting with the comment that this was true in the reverse, too, accompanied by some links to evidence. So we've established at this point in the conversation that choosing the wrong partner can ruin or end a person's life. People should be entitled to vet potential partners for character and in fact expected to do so. Yay for intellectual freedom and personal responsibility! That wasn't satisfactory to the feminist, who flounced and whined about the discussion, eventually claiming men only talk about their experiences with bad women as a retort to women's discussions about bad men. When it was pointed out to her that in this discussion, she'd done the gender reverse of exactly what she was accusing, she got upset because God forbid anyone object to her choice to do something she objects to men doing. She flounced and bounced, throwing a spectacular tantrum and blocking to avoid further responses, then sent in the reserves. Feminist 2 used shaming language and balked when she was made fun of for it, quickly disappearing behind Feminist 3. Feminist 3 took me on a long, largely random journey in which she picked up Feminist 1's women worsting and ran with it, trying to make the entire discussion, which, remember, had started with a point about men's experiences with women they shouldn't choose to date, all about female victims of partner homicide and how she felt that reflects on the entire male population. Attempts at rationally discussing the phenomenon of family violence only freaked her out. For example, as discussed in HBR Talk 113, Why is Equally Shared Parenting Legislation So Important? We know that female-initiated violence is the majority, more than 2/3 in fact, of family violence, both in intimate partner violence and child abuse. Research also shows a strong correlation between female initiation of partner violence and injury to the female partner in a bidirectionally violent domestic dispute. Trying to get a feminist to discuss a man's defensive violence as a consequence of a woman's violent assault on him is like trying to coax a cat into a bathtub full of water. The degree of twisting and verbal contortion to avoid seeing the woman's agency in such circumstances hit gold medal level mental gymnastics. Those of us on the men's issues side of the discussion couldn't possibly be talking about important considerations when addressing family violence. We must be saying real men know how to keep their women under control. We couldn't care about children's experiences of abuse. We must be saying all mothers are bad. The Troller Coaster took us on a wild ride through various forms of family and neighborhood violence, citation of statistics, discussion of social phenomena and its potential causes, and every point or counterpoint that was made, she hedged, twisted, fled, and raised an army of straw men in her replies to avoid one particular element of the conversation. Recognition that women's actions can have consequences and women have the power to prevent those consequences by exercising mindfulness in their choices. She reacted to that as if it was lava, jumping from comfortable talking point to comfortable talking point in order to avoid touching it at all. The same thing happens when discussing reproduction in relation to men's issues. Child support and paternal surrender are directly related to the variety of available choices by which women can take control of their fertility. Discussion of the adversity inflicted on men by existing law is answered with victim signaling on behalf of single moms, as if those options don't exist. In the 20th century Western world, no woman ever has to experience an unplanned pregnancy as a result of consensual sex, but should we point that out in response to that victim signaling, we're the devil. Argue with opponents of paternal surrender or with abortion advocates, and you'll find that women's role as agents in the conception of their own children is, again, lava. Even in the men's rights community, the way we discuss pregnancy and custody issues ignores that agency. What do we hear in discussion? Not that any woman and man conceived together, but that he got her pregnant. And even if the father doesn't take all the blame, the mother is still exempt. She falls pregnant, right? It wasn't because of anything she did. She was just minding her own business, walking down the street when, whoops, she slipped and fell on a treacherous patch of pregnancy, and down she went. No sex was involved in the making of that baby. Why, the poor girl was visited by the insidious knock-up fairy. Have some sympathy, you misogynistic heathens. Don't you know motherhood is sacred? We can't discuss fathers' rights without butting up against the deadbeat dad myth, which can't be debunked without pointing out who initiates most divorce and how frivolous the reasons often are. The response is not to examine these factors, but again, to call us misogynistic for considering them. One cannot point out that it's not a man's fault his wife was disloyal with another man, lest one get accused of calling all women sluts. Discussion of due process in criminal court means having to recognize that although the crime does occur, some rape allegations result from misidentification of the perpetrator, and some from outright lies. Try to explain how such mistakes and lies can lead to heavy consequences for the wrongly accused, and feminists will try to transfer the debater's blame of liars and bad systems to all women, or to female victims of male-perpetrated rape. And there's that nickname again, misogynist. And it's totally not misogynistic for feminists to lump false accusers in with real rape victims. It's just misogynistic for us to differentiate between them. Bring up female perpetrators and we're in a whole new doghouse. It can't be as bad as when men do it, right? The personal boundary and bodily autonomy violation just can't be as traumatic because women don't have that kind of power. And certainly, if the victim is made a father against his will, we can't talk about the can of worms that opens up for him. Nor can we speak from the standpoint of viewing his child support obligation to his rapist as a financial punishment for being raped. That's just too much culpability to impose on the woman who raped him, and of course, the lot of us are stark, raving misogynists for talking about it. And we're probably also gay. This is one of the biggest blind spots in our society, where personal agency and accountability intersect with femininity. It's not like that because people can't see it, or because people can't recognize it. It's because they're averse to looking at it. It's like staring into the bright, glaring sun. It hurts to contemplate it, and people can't stand to focus their attention on it long enough to really see it. They'll look anywhere to avoid the burning, painful reality. The question is, what can we do about that? Tune in to HBR Talk as we discuss women's agency as society's blind spot and how this complicates the men's issues dialogue. HBR Talk streams on multiple platforms. You can tune in Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern via the link in the low bar, or find other viewing and listening options for that time or later on badgerfeed.com.